Would negotiations or war determine the U.S. border? A U.S. agent described Willamette Valley farmers as loyal Canadians. A French report agreed that the Columbia River area should remain British. Almost all U.S. newcomers stayed south of the Columbia River, which they assumed would be the border. But U.S. President Polk refused an international tribunal. In London, Lord Palmerston defended British commitment to the Columbia River, but an election saw Lord Aberdeen, an appeaser, take his place. President Polk was a slave owner who wanted to expand slavery in the South. He needed to resolve the northern border so he could attack Mexico. He couldn't risk war with both Britain and Mexico. When negotiations began, not a single American lived north of the Columbia River. Polk made his aggressive opening offer, the 49th parallel. The British ambassador refused to even forward it to London, so no counter-offer could be made. Polk withdrew his offer and threatened war. Aberdeen agreed so hastily, he left Point Roberts and the San Juan Islands in the U.S. Aberdeen did not offer the Whidbey Island option, which would have given the U.S. its strategic goals. What Douglas called that monstrous treaty abandoned Columbia and 90% of his people and infrastructure. It was ratified just before Lord Palmerston returned to power. With Britain neutralized, the U.S. declared war on Mexico and annexed enough land to offset its northern windfall. When Oregon's first governor, a slave owner, arrived, James Douglas, who descended from slaves, prepared to leave. On May 19, 1849, Douglas left Vancouver and Columbia for good, leading a caravan to his new capital, Victoria. He left behind a land full of place names, lasting reminders of the Columbia that was, but he brought Chinookwawah, the trade language that symbolized the old Columbia, its multicultural values and respect for Native people. The U.S. Army began 3 decades of wars against the First Nations former allies of Columbia. Native violence was directed at U.S. settlers. Columbians were suspected of being collaborators. Some tried to help their old allies. William Ptolemy returned from Victoria to defend Chief Leschi, whose brother had been murdered in the office of the first Washington governor, Isaac Stevens, but the chief was executed as a criminal. Columbia was gone, as was its capital, Vancouver. But soon a new Columbia and a new Vancouver would arise in the north.